She has traveled to over 130 countries. She has built a thriving brand in her 60s and is on a mission to empower women to embrace the solo travel, to find joy in adventure and support local artisans across the globe.
Loved it, except that it's one of the hottest, most humid places on the planet. I never thought that it was weird for me to travel by myself, because I'm from this line of independent women. I knew something was coming and I didn't know what it was. And just as sort of each new thing came along, pageant training, and I had my own fashion line for a while, different things, I would say, okay, God, is this the thing that I've been waiting for? And the answer was always the same, was no, but this is what I have for you right now. God was giving me different experiences, putting all the puzzle pieces in place for me to be able to do it, even though
There's never going to be the perfect moment.
the coffee is never going to be the way that you make it. The food isn't the same. And you have to be willing to say, I'm going to leave my comforts at home and experience something new and be okay with that. When I turned 50, kind of my 50th birthday present to myself was that I was never going to say, someday I'm going to do that. Instead of saying someday I'm going to do it now. Being alone is a physical state, that you're the only person in the room. Being lonely is an emotional state. And you can be lonely in a room full of people.
A loss is the loss. You're always going to miss us persons, but we also lose friends, not only just a death or even parents. You can do yoga, you can do breath work. Those are tools, but that anchor is your faith, your values, what brings you those dark moments when the world feels like it's just closing down, you've got nothing else to grab.
The things that stop us from doing things are things we put on ourselves. And if your heart is still beating, you can still do things. You can still have adventure. You can still learn new things. You can still experience new things. If you are passionate about what you do, if you love it, you wake up every morning energized, ready to go, ready to face the day with joy in your heart and a zest for life.
It is possible to have joy no matter where you are in life. Welcome to Rosabel Unscripted, the podcast where authenticity meets real life stories. I'm your host, Rosabel Soulfill, and in each episode, I dive into unscripted conversations about personal growth, life challenges, and the experiences that shape us. From heart-to-heart chats with inspiring guests to raw moments of self-discovery, I am here to share stories that connect us all. Whether you're seeking motivation, healing, or simply a dose of real talk, you are in the right place. So get comfortable, tune in, and join me on this journey of transformation, empowerment, and meaningful conversations. This is Rosabel Unscripted. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Rosabel Unscripted podcast, where we dive deep into the journeys, the challenges, and triumphs that shape extraordinary lives. Today's guest, she has traveled to over 130 countries. Wow. She has built a thriving brand in her 60s and is on a mission to empower women to embrace the solo travel, to find joy in adventure and support local artisans across the globe. She is an award-winning host, a fashion and jewelry designer, pageant industry leader, and she's also a woman of faith who knows what it means to turn life's hardest moments into opportunities for growth. Her name is Kerry Damiano. Kerry, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Rosabel. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited, especially because you are known as Miss World Traveler.
Yes, Ms. World Traveler.
Let me tell you, the moment that I read your bio information, there's one thing that came to mind. I was wondering, have you ever been to my country of birth, Colombia?
Yes. Actually, we did our show. We did Ms. World Traveler there in Cartagena.
Cartagena? How did you like it?
Loved it, except that it's one of the hottest, most humid places on the planet.
Definitely a lot of humidity,
but just wonderful. Love the old town. There's something about the people, they come there, but they're taking part, and it's an exciting place to be. Lots happening, music, flowers. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yes. Well, I was born about 2 hours from Cartagena, so I'm very familiar with it. I have family that lives there. I had the opportunity also to travel the entire country with my mom prior to moving to the U.S. 22 years ago. Beautiful country. And so I was, well, that's good. I'm glad you had the opportunity. I mean, with 130 countries in your list, that is awesome. Yep. My most recent travel was to Hawaii about 2 months ago. I was in Honolulu. So,
It has been since I was 16 years old that I was in Hawaii. And the funny
wow.
thing is, I've planned probably 4 or 5 trips over the years. And just for one reason or another, they kept canceling. One was during COVID. And of course, they weren't accepting people to come during COVID, that sort of thing. So I really need to get back.
Guess what? We were actually scheduled to go to Colombia to visit my family, but then something happened. And last minute, my husband said, let's go to Hawaii. We had planned for a vacation. And so it was one of those like 5 days. It was beautiful.
Awesome.
So I kind of fell in love with the, wow.
Did you get to go to some different islands, or were you just more on?
So we were in that one, but in the days that we were there, we literally would rented a car and would travel all over the island. And we went to the Leia or Lao, I think that's what I call it. We did everything that we could. And we also were traveling with little kids. So it's like we were exhausted.
It's different.
Yes, but it was still, I'm very thankful for it. So that was a dream of yours?
Well, it wasn't necessarily a dream. It was that my mom was very much of a traveler, and she always had this sort of wandering spirit. And I think because she had it and she took us as kids to Disneyland and just, roadside attractions and different things, she was pretty fearless. And so that instilled that in me. So I never thought that it was weird for me to travel by myself, because I came from this line of independent women. So it wasn't necessarily a dream. It was just something that was in me.
So you built a brand and it's called Miss World Traveler. What gave you the idea? What was that spark? When did it all begin?
Ooh, it had been percolating. It was there, and it's almost like I couldn't see it for over 20 years. I knew something was coming, and I didn't know what it was. And just as sort of each new thing came along, pageant training, and I had my own fashion line for a while, different things, I would say, okay, God, is this the thing that I've been waiting for? And the answer was always the same, was no, but this is what I have for you right now. So when it finally sort of appeared, kind of like the scales being taken off of your eyes, and I could see what Ms. World Traveler was supposed to be, I could see that over those 20 plus years, God was giving me different experiences, putting all the puzzle pieces in place for me to be able to do, even though I was in my 60s and I would have rather have done it when I was younger and had more energy. But the timing was right and everything fell into place. So it came to be as something that I'd been waiting and waiting and waiting for. And finally it came. Too late.
Absolutely. And now you know why this show is called Unscripted, because I will say the silliest things, right? You never know what I will say. But listen, I'm thinking about this. That time where I was, like single in between, I had this idea that nobody's going to come and take me in places. So I did quite some solo traveling, not necessarily outside the U.S., but within the U.S. And for example, I was in nursing school. One day, it was 4th of July, and I call a friend who actually, where was he at the time? Well, he was in Odessa, Texas, and I was in Alabama. And I said, what you doing this weekend? He said, well, I'm planning to go to California. I'm planning to go to Venice Beach. And said, can I join you? I have that kind of free spirit. Jump in my car. I'll pick you up. And I drove from Alabama, picked my friend up, and then we travel all to California and tour LA and that, and then came back. And then another one was when I also, again, from Alabama, went all the way up, stopped in South Carolina, visit some friends, and I kept going by myself. I visit Hershey Parks, Pennsylvania. And then on the way back, I think I stopped in Maryland or something like that. And then DC to kind of tour Washington and so on. Just to give you an idea.
I love your free spirit.
Yeah,
just take off and go.
Exactly, because I felt like if I didn't do it, nobody was going to. If I was going to wait for somebody to come and take me, it's not going to happen.
And that, Rosabel, was really my thing. When I first started wanting to travel, I said to myself, if I have to wait for someone to go with me, I'm never going to get to go. People have jobs and they only have certain vacation time, or they couldn't afford to do it, or, whatever the reason was. So I love that you had the same idea.
Right. And if you think about it, life is like that. If you wait for the perfect moment to do that business, to start a career, to have children, whatever, there's never going to be the perfect moment. So you may as well just go for it. But again, it takes certain kind of people. Some people decide that, hey, it's not for them, and that's fine. Everybody's different.
And you shouldn't. If you think it's not for me, you're not going to be happy. The coffee is never going to be the way that you make it. The food isn't the same. And you have to be willing to say, I'm going to leave my comforts at home and experience something new and be okay with that. And if you don't like that, don't go.
Exactly. It's traveling. It can be an adventure. Thinking
Always.
about adventure, almost 3 years ago when I took my husband and my children to Colombia for the first time, and I rented a car and wow, my goodness, we visited like 7 cities of the coast in a 10-day period. It was crazy. My husband was like, it's just like having the time of my life. He's a pretty sporty guy. He's pretty good. But funny thing is, 2 weeks later, he finally let go. He's like, you know what? I was out there. I didn't know where we were going, and you were just talking Spanish with everybody. And I was like, why was I going to speak English? You were talking Spanish with your idiot?
That's funny.
Yeah, I know. So it's kind of, we have a team here for sure. So, wow. So I want to ask you about your travels. So what is something that you could say has been a challenge and maybe some unexpected blessings, something positive or something negative from the traveling experience?
I think it used to be a challenge for me to find things to eat. I'm very particular. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten even more particular. I always try and book a hotel that has a refrigerator in it. Sometimes they call it a mini bar or whatever it is, but it has a refrigerator so that I can go to the grocery store and pick up foods that I feel good about eating. So that has been kind of a boon for travel, and that I didn't have to worry about, am I going to be able to find something to eat?
Right. Wow. And what is the longest that you have stayed in a place?
Well, I just started doing this a couple of years ago. I had always had on my bucket list that I wanted to move to Paris for like 3 to 6 months and live like a local, rent an apartment and shop at the grocery store and live like a local. Well, in a busy life, you can't carve out 3 to 6 months. So I was able to get 5 weeks. And so I worked the whole time. I was doing Ms. World Traveler while I was there and did the whole living like a local. And I just loved it.
Wow.
I just fell in love with that, not having to rush. Because as you know, most of the time when you travel, you have a very finite amount of time.
Yes.
You have 3 days, you have 5 days, whatever it is. And so
the jet lag and all that.
You try to get everything done that you can. Staying longer, just time to breathe, to exhale. And I didn't do any of the touristy things. I'd already been there before. So I'd done tourist, got all the tourist things checked off the list. So I could just enjoy a different pace of life, and time was a luxury. So once I did Paris, the next year I did Rome, 4 weeks. Well, this year, 25, I did Barcelona. And then I've got one coming up in October. I'm actually doing New York City for a month. I've just found that was a very enjoyable way to travel. It gave me a completely different perspective.
Wow, it's amazing. So many questions when I think about the world. It's incredible. My husband also wants to travel a lot. I got a few places I still want to go. I want to go to Fiji Islands.
Ooh, yes.
Would love to go Fiji. He wants to go to Rome, Colosseum. He wants to go
Europe.
Go. Yes, he wants to go that. I would love to go to Canary Islands as well.
I've been to the Canary Islands. Yeah.
Yes.
I did a cruise there. That's a great way to see them. Okay. It was a 7-day cruise. So it was a very good amount of time, not too long, not too short. And then you get to see all of the different islands, and they have a different personality. So it's worth seeing some of the different places, and just loved it.
Wow. And then another place that I would love to go visit will be in South Africa, Cape Town. I would love to.
I'm flying into Cape Town in November.
Oh, right.
It's beautiful. Beautiful there.
So yeah, so many places still to discover, the people, the food. Have you been to Japan?
Yeah.
I want to go to Japan as well. I don't know. And I also want to go to Costa Rica. May as well join you.
Sounds like you have a long list of things. And this is something, Rosabel, that when I turned 50, kind of my 50th birthday present to myself was that I was never going to say someday I'm going to do that. Instead of saying someday I'm going to do it now. And I've used that, for the last however many years, that it's just, instead of putting things off, if at all possible, and sometimes it's not possible. As you know, you have responsibilities and work and finances and all of these things. But if at all possible, do it now.
Absolutely. Wow. Kerry, you have said that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. What does that mean to you
Yes.
personally?
Yes. Well, being alone is a physical state that you're the only person in the room. Being lonely is an emotional state. And you can be lonely in a room full of people if you don't feel like you fit in, or, there's a number of reasons why we feel lonely. In a marriage, a wife can feel lonely even if her husband's sitting right there. And I have chosen not to let loneliness be part of my thinking. You can stop it here. And I
Yes.
think that's part of my faith as well, because I know that Jesus is always with me. So I am not alone, even if I'm physically alone.
Wow. And Kerry, you also, unfortunately, you lost your parents, right? Both of your parents. How old were you when you lost your parents? Were you
I
just
just lost my mom a month ago.
sorry?
Yeah, I
Wow.
lost
I'm
my
so
dad
sorry
10
to hear
years
that.
ago and lost my mom a month ago.
And you still radiate so much energy, confidence, joy, even after losing both of your parents. I lost my mom when I was 17, and that's hard. But now, you know, losing both of your parents, it
Yes.
seems like your faith has also helped you navigate the losses, the grief, because once we a loss is it's what it's called. It's a loss, you know. You're always, no matter how, I think the grief is always gonna be there, whether it's present or
Mm,
not, you're always gonna miss this
that's
person. So
right.
that right?
That's one.
And
Well, like,
so
for example, my dad's been gone 10 years. So it's not, the pain isn't as acute as
right.
it was 10 years ago, but it's still there. It's not right on the tip of my tongue all the
Right,
time. But
absolutely.
there'll be something, a movie or, something that I'll see and it's a trigger. And then you just feel it so
Yes.
deeply. So it is always there. It gets easier and this, you
Right.
lost your mom a while back. It's always with you. It just gets easier.
And I also talk a lot about loss because when we say loss, we immediately think death. But we also lose friends, not only
Mhm.
just at death or even parents. As I mentioned to you earlier, I work in neurology with a lot of patients that have dementia. And in a way, emotionally, like they're gone. And that's a loss right there. There's so many things, that I myself had lost a couple friends to dementia, meaning I'm no longer can have conversations with them. They don't remember me. And so that's a loss right there. And then, of
Mhm.
course, we get older and, things are not the same, things change and so on for so many reasons, right? And so it takes a big connotation to talk about those things and to have
Yeah.
an anchor of faith that helped us through that.
Right.
That's important.
So for me, it's kind of the only way to get
Oh,
through
yeah.
that.
Same thing. Same thing here. That has been my only way. My experience has been that you can do yoga, you can do breath work. Those are tools, but
Yeah.
that anchor is your faith, your values, what brings you those dark moments when the world feels like it's just closing down and you got nothing else to grab.
Right.
That's, I believe, when your faith that comes from the inside out, it's what brings you up to the surface, my
True.
belief.
And you also, for me, it's because I don't have to doubt. I don't doubt, both my parents were believers. I know they're with the Lord right now. And so I
Exactly.
don't have to wonder. I don't have to doubt. I have total peace. And so even though
And
it's sad for me that they're not here, it's good for them.
hope and
That's right.
And a lot of times, there's certain things, it's not that we don't question because maybe, I don't know, but again, in my experience was like, okay, we believe that there is a purpose for things, there's a
Yes.
reason why things happen the way they do, even though sometimes we don't like it, we wish, I
Or we
mean,
don't know it.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. So what would you say for listeners, again, that feel like, let's talk about that concept of, okay, it's too late to find happiness or adventure. What would you say to encourage them?
Uh, Well, one, it's never too late. I mean, we said that earlier, but
Yes.
I see that a lot because the things that stop us from doing things are things we put on ourselves. I'm too
Right.
old. I'm too this. I am too busy. Don't have enough money. All of these things, they're self imposed limitations. And so if we can sift through the things that are stopping us from doing things, then you realize that it isn't too late. And if your heart is still beating, you can still do things. You can still have adventure. You can still learn new things. You can still experience new things. So why not? Find out what you feel is your thing that's stopping you and see if you can work through that.
And you are a champion of supporting local artisans and small businesses around the world. Tell me, why is that so important to you?
Well, one, I'm a small business. My dad was a small businessman. And so I feel like that's just sort of the backbone. There's Pepsi Cola and the big companies, and they're wonderful because they employ a lot of people and that sort of thing. But just, the daily, it's you and me, and we have our small business. And so part of Ms. World Traveler, the idea was not only to inspire women to travel, even if they have to do it alone, but to support other women in their business. So shop local. So when we go somewhere, we try and find women artists, designers, entrepreneurs, people just like us who are making their way in the world, and introduce you to them on our YouTube series. And then that way, if you go to Nashville, if you go to Paris, you go someplace, you'll feel like you know somebody. You walk into their store and now you have a friend. And that inspires you to travel.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because I think about my little travels, even when I go around here, like little towns. I love small towns. And when you go to this small shops and all the culture, I mean, it's beautiful.
Well, and
It's
hearing
such
their
a,
stories. I mean, you go to one town over and you go to a little shop and you meet somebody, find out what their story is, because invariably they have
yes.
one. And that's what we're doing. We're just trying to uncover those interesting stories like you do on your podcast.
Absolutely. Wow. And with that being said, let me ask you this. Did you have a story that you can tell us that really brought the impact? Like, okay, this is a story that I can share with the world or with the listeners.
That is a good question. It's very broad. Can you be more specific?
So basically, do you have a story specifically supporting those local communities where you have like an unforgettable impact or like a moment? Like, for example, I went and we worked together with this group of people or so. For example, in Colombia, there is, I don't know, probably not in the city that you visit in Cartagena, but if you move maybe an hour, a little bit more west, you'll find a small community of indigenous peoples. They live in this, I don't know if you were, oh, in fact, I have it right here. I was going to talk about a sombrero that's very, very particular, very specific to our area. There it has some, they call it, for example, 21 or 21. And basically they do it with your hands, right? And then you can fold it in 21 pieces. You can put it in your pocket and then you can just little like that. And it's never wrinkled or anything because it's made out of caña flecha, for example. And I can show it to you. I think I have it here somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Let me go
What a
grab it.
clever idea.
Yeah, let me go grab it for you. Okay, hold on. Okay. So this is it's called sombrero volteado from Colombia, right? And it's made by hand by the indigenous people out there.
Is it straw?
Yeah, I can't remember. Anyways, but apparently, I don't know if this is the brand that you can fold it like in 21 pieces or something. Like you can literally do this. Like you can
it's like a suitcase, certainly.
And then voila.
Love it.
The indigenous people of Colombia made it.
Well,
a community or anybody that
we
you
have
visited
lots
during your
of
travels.
amazing stories of people that we have met. But one that comes to mind was in Pensacola, Florida. And it was just this little shop.
Did you say Pensacola?
Yes, Pensacola, Florida.
I used to live in Pensacola.
Really? Really? Well, these ladies have this little shop.
Okay.
And it's kind of a vintage, antiques, designer, vintage clothes, sort of a little bit of everything. And they just welcomed us with such open arms and they were so thrilled to have us there. And they, immediately posted, Ms. World Traveler chose us to be on their show. I mean, they just made us feel, fantastic. And then they have tagged us in like everything. They've done since then. It was a year ago that we were there. They've tagged us in everything. It was just so important to them that they felt like they'd gotten chosen. Of course, they made us feel important. So it's one of those things where you make a connection that I know anytime I go back there, I'm going to see my friends it's called
Unique Critique.
Unique Critique. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been there.
Have you really?
Is it Pelican Street? Pelican, it's 9th Street. It's in downtown, right?
It's across the street from a Greek church. So it wasn't right downtown. It was a little ways out in a beautiful building that had beautiful painting alongside. You almost can't miss it because of this beautiful painting that was on the side of it.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's amazing. It just reminds me of things like, for example, when I went to Cozumel and Playa Blanca in Mexico, I was so impressed. The food, the people, the locals. And right in there, we went to visit a place where they did the agave, or like where they get I don't know, what is it, that drink, that thing, the tequila.
Okay.
So yeah, the people, how they were making and all the cool stuff, when you visit this place is just
Yes.
incredible.
And that's basically what we do. We go find those interesting things, not the things that sort of everyone knows about, the
Right.
things that are a little bit underdog, that you have to search out a little bit. When I first started coming up with the idea for Ms. World Traveler, I looked at what everybody else is doing. I mean, you kind of have to. It is part of a business
Right.
plan. You have to
Absolutely.
research what's already there. And there are thousands of travel blogs and vloggers. And it's wonderful because you can find out where to go, where to eat, where to
Exactly.
stay, all those important things. And I use that sometimes when I'm researching a trip. But I
Very
wanted
good.
to be different. I wanted to have our own niche. And that's part of why I wear the banner, which is kind of a testament to my pageant background.
Yes.
But also, I wanted to show things that were different. So, we talk about style and fashion and art and antiques and different. So, you're going to hear something different on our show than you hear on other shows. It's the whole idea.
Absolutely.
But
In
we're
the
about
country
making that
and outside.
connection.
Yes. Wow. Have you been to Medellin, Colombia? You
I
probably
have
need
been.
to go. You have?
Yes. Loved
Okay.
it there.
Yes.
It's
Love
beautiful.
the weather. Weather out there is always spring.
It was so green. It was just beautiful. And I had a
Yes.
wonderful guide there who he and his wife took me all around and it was lovely.
Yeah. And then one of the places I want to go now as a grown up, there's a fair, La Feria de las Flores, or the rose, where I think it's every August 2nd. And we used to go every year. It's beautiful.
Next August 2nd, you need to put that on your calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I need to go back. The last time I was there during that fair I was 14 years of age.
It's been too
And
long.
with my mom, yes, because she was still alive at the time. And going to the coffee plantations for sure. That's what I would like to go.
Yes.
I told my husband I wanted to take him there because you can actually rent like a little villa in there, and they will wake you up and take you to the tour to actually do the whole coffee.
Uh-huh.
How do you
Oh, that sounds
harvest the
lovely.
coffee and everything.
Yes. And how old are your kids?
So 4, almost 5, and almost 10.
Okay.
But I mean, I think I do have my limitations. Yeah, work here keeps me grounded. Anyway, so Texas has such a small little towns as well. I live near a town here in Texas called Georgetown. It's beautiful. I love it. You can find a lot of little shops in there as well. And also there's a small town here who has a lot of history. It's called Texas. Also,
I had not been there.
I was just there. Yes, look at it. There's Charleston, Round Rock, Georgetown, and Salado are delight, a big delight. Every Christmas they do. You've been probably to Waco, so closer. Waco is about an hour, 45 minutes north of where I live. And so again, I've done the tour in Waco, Magnolia, and the whole, was it Dr. Pepper Museum, right? In Waco.
Yeah.
So anyways, lots of places.
Too many. A lifetime's worth.
Exactly.
Some people say, well, how did you get to 130 countries? Because I started traveling over 40 years ago.
Exactly.
Just a little bit each year. You can't do it all at once.
And the feeling I'm getting when I talk with you, it's how exciting is it? Because that's not one moment of dullness or getting bored. I mean, I get excited about that.
Yeah. Well, for me, there's a joy of the Lord, which fuels me. But 2, I'm passionate about what I do. I say this to a lot of people that if you are passionate about what you do, if you love it, you wake up every morning energized, ready to go, ready to face the day with joy in your heart and a zest for life. And so I approach travel that way. I approach my work that way, approach family, church, all of the things that I have in my life. I approach them with that same zest for life.
Absolutely. And another thing I was thinking, places are there, they're beautiful, but people make the places. And like in my case, for example, what I've been doing with the podcast is build that community. I make friends. I make friends through the podcast, in a sense, meaning like get to know people. We continue to communicate. We'll talk about different things. I like the idea because I feel like what you do and what I do, it's finding what we have more in common as opposed to finding what divide us. So that's one of the things I love. Like I said, the human race, the things that
Yes.
makes us human, what makes us close to each other, basically.
Right. And you find if you just start talking, you find that you have multiple points of connection with people.
Yes. What has been the place that you've been like, okay, wow, this has been incredible. What is something that really have caught your attention, whether it was culturally or religious or anything like that you can tell us?
Oh boy, I have lots of those places and for lots of different reasons. For example, just, a place that I absolutely love, Paris, that was kind of a no brainer. But I've had wonderful spiritual experiences in various places. One of them was in Ephesus, which is in Turkey. And I've been there a couple of times now. And my first time there, it was, I can't even remember. It was a long time ago. Maybe 1989 was the first time I was there. And so they were still discovering, archaeologists were still digging and they were still finding more of the ruins. But one of the things they had almost completely had uncovered was an amphitheater. And it was a place where Paul, the Apostle Paul, had gone and he had preached to 24,000 people. And they did this little demonstration. Somebody stood down at the front and had us go sit way, way up at the top, as far away as you could. And he clapped. And you could hear that clap as if he was sitting right next to you. And so that was just one of those spiritual moments that the Apostle Paul was standing down there and every one of those 24,000 people got to hear every word that he said.
And then you mentioned Turkey. I remember now that another place I would love to visit one day will be Istanbul.
Love is Istanbul. It has its challenges, but it's wonderful.
Yes. But yeah, so many ideas, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we cannot say that because of money or whatever, because now more than ever, we are connected. We're more connected than ever. And so traveling, I think, is a lot more attainable than it was
It is.
probably.
There's so many ways to save money, different points and all kinds of ways. And I often say one of the ways that I have saved money is that I have stayed with one airline. So I pretty much travel Delta all the time, other than if I'm, somewhere that I have to be on a local huddle jumper. But I've done that because I have now earned a lot of perks. So I don't have to pay for my luggage. I get free upgrades. So there's some things that have really made travel a little bit easier, a little bit more comfortable because I have chosen to put all my eggs in one basket, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So that's just an example. That saves me a lot of money. And there's lots of other things. One of the things I mentioned was I go to the grocery store. So I eat breakfast in. I typically don't eat lunch. So, I don't have that much in terms of food expenses. That's another, it's a little thing, but every little bit helps, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And depends where you go. And then, of course, you probably do your homework before you go and things of that nature.
I do a lot of research before I go. Yes.
That is very important. That organization when it comes to that. It depends also, but also to avoid all kinds of, and I'm sure you have to have all kinds of different passports or whatever. Some countries do require passports, some others don't.
Well, you have to have your passport. It's different kinds of visas that you
Visas. There you go. That's what I was talking about. Visas. Yeah. That was the word. Visas. Yes. Because every country requires a passport. Yeah.
Sometimes those can get a little pricey. So that's a way also to save money is if you're, you say, well, why don't I go to a place that doesn't require a visa so I can save myself $150 or, there's a wide range of what they charge, but that is a way that you can save money.
Right. So how often do you travel? I mean, how many a year would you say that you travel?
That would be hard to say. Every month is different. For example, I was gone virtually the whole month of July. I was judging pageants. So it's also one of the things that I do. And I had back to back with less than 24 hours between most of them. So that was a very busy month. And then in August, I now have 3 weeks. I just got back on Sunday from a trip and I have 3 weeks on the ground. So I'm really looking forward to that. I love going, but I love coming home.
No, true. I mean, that makes it even more exciting, to be home. Any place that you said, you know what, I want to go move there, or do you want to stay where you are?
Well, I love living in Phoenix, partly because it is so easy to travel. A lot of things are just an hour away and there's a lot of options for flights here. So it's easy. It's easy to travel. It's easy to take road trips, lots of things, within a day's or two drive, which I love road trips too. I know you can send me road trips.
Yeah.
So I love living here. And as I mentioned, I just lost my mom. For a long time, I haven't really been able to consider moving because I had an elderly mother. So
right.
who knows where the Lord leads now? We will see.
Kerry, how can our listeners connect with you?
Sure. Couple ways. One, they can follow us, become a subscriber to our YouTube channel, which is Ms. World Traveler, Ms. World Traveler. And we release new footage, a new segment every Friday. So we're constantly bringing you new content. They can also follow us on Instagram, which is Kerry, Ms. World Traveler, Kerry Ms. World Traveler. And that's also our Facebook. So lots of different ways for them to find us.
Is there anything I have not asked you that you're like, okay, I really want to mention that?
Well, I guess I'd like to reiterate, it's never too late. Just like Nike. I'll borrow from Nike and say, just do it. Whatever it is. Maybe it's start your own photography business or, whatever it is that you're thinking, I'd like to try that someday. Start now. You just never know where it will take you.
But you're also a jewelry designer, right? Do you have a store?
No, I don't have a store. I don't sell them. I just give them away. So I sponsor a lot of pageants. I work with a lot of pageant girls. So I design clothes and earrings and gowns, things like that, because I just love it. And it's a ministry. I just love to give
Wow.
things.
That is so, so beautiful.
Thank
you.
Wow.
So you just give them away. That's incredible.
Giving away.
That's incredible. My mom used to be a designer. I mean, she used to design I don't know how to, it's hard for me to explain it because it was not that she would design the dress, but the decorations, like and she will do it by hand, right?
It sounds beautiful.
It was actually for pageantry, like she will be the lady who will be like sewing the little, the details of the wedding dress that have, all
like the appliques.
Appliques, that's right. That's a word. Appliques, beads and the
beads
lentejuelas or the
sequins and things that give it all that extra.
Exactly. And you know what? She'll spend hours and up to midnight. She'll do this beautiful designs, beautiful, amazing, all by hand,
Wow.
Yes.
It's almost a lost art, isn't it?
It is. It is. She knew how to do certain things or crochet or things of that nature. Again, all by hand, because now I guess you have all these other machines and maybe it becomes a little more expensive. And then also she did have the embroidery and anything that had to do with that. The points, you have that fabric that have little holes in it and then you put different colors and then you make figures for the, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to research this whole thing, honestly, because right now I'm like this and that, and I'm like, I'm lost. Because when people used to ask me, they used to be like, you do all this wonderful. And your daughter, she's like, and my mom was, no, she doesn't even know how to thread a needle. I'm like, yeah, that's true. But I do other things though. I know how to cook.
Excellent. I don't. So you're way ahead of me.
See, so, we can trade, right? I can cook.
Okay.
See?
That's what you feed me dinner.
Exactly. We can surely survive. If we're trying an island, we'll survive for sure. I'll do the cooking and then there. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, it's beautiful. Kerry, anything else one last word that you want to tell our listeners?
You were great to talk with, Rosabel. You're just lovely. And thank you so much for having me on your show. And it was a pleasure to get to know you.
Thank you. Same here. And you know what? I am my guest fans, and I'm going to be part of your channel. I'm going to probably end up being like that place in Pensacola.
Wonderful. Absolutely.
I'm going to be like, because then we'll create the little shorts and send it. And I'm probably going to be looking like, okay, where's she been?
Yeah.
And then one day I'll call you and say, hey, can I join you?
Wonderful. I got room in my suitcase.
That's awesome. That's right. Awesome. Kerry, thank you so much. Thank you for, one of the best things, honestly, if I can say, keep the joy, keep smiling. That's what we need more in this world. We need more positivity, encouragement. Unfortunately, some people are hurting that don't know how to smile and don't know what to do with their lives. They think we need money, we're too old, or whatever. But we need to know that it is possible to have joy no matter where you are in life. In life, unscripted. Thank you.
If this episode spoke to you, if it sparked a thought, a feeling, or a shift, I invite you to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss an episode. Visit www.rosabelzofel.com. Here on Rosabel Unscripted, we dive deep into real stories, mindful moments, and conversations that matter. Every week, we explore themes like resilience, healing, transformation, and the courage to rewrite your own story. So if you're ready to grow, reflect, and walk this journey with an open heart, hit that subscribe button, give the video a like, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let's keep the conversation going. There are new episodes every week.